But what about non-believers that don't fit this particular mold? Christianity has always taught that God wants us to relate to God in community, helping one another grow in that relationship. Through activities like studying scriptures together, working on and thinking through rational arguments, encouraging each other in spiritual disciplines, participating in corporate worship, and setting good moral examples for each other, we can help each other learn more about and grow closer to God.
I just have to call bullshit on this whole being a good moral example, and that's how we can know God better. I feel like when people say this kind of shit, that just shows that they haven't actually read the Old Testament critically, because there's so many wrong things in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. There's so many wrong things that there's no way that you can think that, oh, if I'm a good person, then I'll know God better. No, if you're a good person, you'll realize that you're far more morally good than this God of the Bible. I mean, that's at least what I came to. I came to the conclusion that wow, have you read the Bible? This guy's a dick. There's no way I would do that. So I'll give you some for instances. For instance, I wouldn't sell a woman into being a wife like that. I just wouldn't sell people. That's a pretty big one of the Old Testament, is selling people as property, considering other groups of people property. All of those things I feel are indications that maybe God is not the moral foundation of our reality or of us or anything like that. And I think that finding community and doing things like that together, he's talking about non-believers who are not staunchly against worshiping God. They are the ones that need to do Bible study with believers, to rationally think out these things with believers. These non-believers need to go to church so that they can, know God better and all this other stuff. You're basically telling people, well, if you indoctrinate yourself into the faith and you just inundate everything about your day-to-day life with God, then you'll eventually believe. And I would agree. If I sat here and I constantly went to church or Bible studies with believers, and I was there not to critically think about the material, but to, learn more about God or something, then yeah, I'll eventually be indoctrinated into the faith again. I won't have any kind of problem worshiping that God because I've only been told all of the good shit about God. The problem is that I feel like that's a really bad, sales pitch for your religion, saying that, oh, well, if you indoctrinate yourself into the religion, then you'll be happy about it. Okay, that's not going to get me closer to the truth of reality.
This responsibility is extremely valuable. Using it correctly helps us form deeper, more meaningful relationships with God and other people. Unfortunately, we humans often fail in this responsibility. When Christians are intellectually lazy, when they oppress others, when they display bigotry, and when religious leaders manipulate their flocks into believing false things for their own personal gain, this places stumbling blocks in the way of others growing closer to God.
Does Cameron know what the history of Christianity is? Because, he basically just described all of Christian history. Oppressing others, abusing others, teaching doctrines that are personally beneficial to the person preaching them. That's just Christian history. When Christians are intellectually lazy, which seems to be a good number of Christians out there are intellectually lazy as far as critical views of their religion go, and critical views of the evidence for God go. And apparently all of this prevents people from, specifically non-believers, prevents them from believing in their God. Everything that he listed there are things that would push, a non-believer away. But I feel like everything that he described pretty much describes Christianity, especially with, some of the people that I know that Cameron hangs around with, Frank Turek. Frank Turek is very anti-LGBTQ community. He's very oppressive when it comes to that, and there are so many Christian ideals out there that are misogynistic and just hateful in general. And I mean, Cameron might be, totally against all that. He might be totally against persecuting the LGBTQ community. My guess is that, he's probably a little bit subversive in how he does it. But I'm sure that he doesn't approve of the LGBTQ lifestyle. But I mean, I haven't really heard any of his stuff on the LGBTQ community. But it wouldn't surprise me if he thought that it was a bad thing to be part of the community. So, but in any case, all of these things that he lists are things that Christians do pretty regularly. Now, there are progressive Christians out there that are getting better about a lot of these things, like being hateful online, being oppressive, being misogynistic. Like, there are definitely strides being made in the Christian community to be more progressive about those things. But everything that he described in this, I feel like describes Christian history, because Christians have been at the forefront of every single thing he listed. And I'm glad that he's speaking out against it, but he is also speaking out against those things in such a generalized way that you leave it open to interpretation. Christians who are, screaming at LGBTQ persons that they're going to be going to hell, or that, they don't deserve to exist or something like that, they don't see themselves as being oppressive. They don't see themselves as being misogynistic or being hateful or anything like that. They think, and I've heard this from several different kinds of Christians out there, they think that it's actually loving to say, hey, if you don't stop being gay, then you're going to go to hell. You're going to burn there for eternity, and you deserve that kind of punishment for being gay. And so by leaving it kind of open and vague like that, I feel like he's leaving it open to personal interpretation of what he's talking about when he says Christians oppressing other people. I don't think that there's ever been a time when our society has been so open to the fact that the kind of misogyny and persecution of marginalized minorities. We're open to that. Like, we know that's happening. And at the same time, we have such a large group of people that are unabashedly doing those things. Like, they have no remorse for the misogyny and bigotry that they're spreading. They're proud of it. So, it kind of seems like, at least in the United States, we're living in a society where we know this shit is going on, and yet there are still people that are those kinds of shitheads.